Hello and a very warm welcome to CEO Immersives. I'm Devina Lasson. Now in this groundbreaking series, we bring you in-depth and personal conversations with the creme de la creme of India's C-suite to fetch you pertinent industry insights and personal anecdotes. On this very interesting episode, Sourav Majumdar, editor of Business Today, and Krishna Gopalan, executive editor of Business Today, are in conversation with Yezdi Nagporewalla, the CEO of KPMG India. Now, with KPMG coming on their 30-year milestone, Yezdi talks about how KPMG is constantly innovating to stay ahead of the curve and keep ahead with growth. This and a lot more. Take a look.
Yezdi, thank you for speaking to Business today. And I'll jump straight into the topic of discussion actually. So much is happening around us in terms of geopolitical risks, inflation, the rupee taking a tumble. In all this, how do you see corporate India sort of weathering the storm?
India, as against some of our global other geographies, is doing much better. It's doing better because it's stable, it's taking corrective action, and there is a fair degree of positivity which continues to exist. So if you compare India versus the rest of the world, there is, for example, a huge fear of recession outside of India.
That's right.
You don't see that in India as much as you see it outside. And there are reasons around it. Stability itself is a reason. Having consistent policies is a reason. But more importantly, being proactive is the key reason, I would say.
Do you think corporate optimism is still holding strong? Because we have these periodic surveys and that tells us broadly it's still holding strong. What's your sense?
I think so too. There's no erosion on that optimism. But having said that, people are watching it. So it's not as if it's like it's stand away and it continues as it is. Budgets are still in place. People are still going ahead with their plans, but everyone is watching it. I would say.
Do you think there is investment, private investment, which is going to be sort of visible even despite all these headwinds?
Again, rolling back to the government, if they get and if we get some of this the way it's planned, and if you see the plan, there is a huge push or a huge encouragement for manufacturing. And if we go down that path of manufacturing and ultimately we actually do achieve manufacturing contributing 25% of GDP, I would see a lot of private play in that.
As we look at a journey where we're looking to get to a $5 trillion economy, if you have to identify 3 or 4 points that we ought to do to get the manufacturing story in place, what would those be?
To answer that, actually, you have to see the gap of where we are and where we want to be. So you want to be 5 trillion. That's already established. It's already announced. It's there. And where is that gap going to come from? And that gap is going to come from manufacturing. But more importantly, it's going to come from technology and digitization and the digital aspects of things, along with manufacturing. And I feel the startup ecosystem that we have is also going to start contributing to that. So that's how I feel the gap will be achieved, if you like.
So it's a bit of the old and the new coming together?
Oh, absolutely. What we already have, we already have. We're not going to lose it. But it's the incremental that you're looking at to touch 5 trillion. And that's the one which will have the blend.
What are the 2 or 3 key things in these times when so much change is around us? What are the 2 or 3 key things you would like to do at KPMG as you move forward in this journey?
These times require us to be far more agile and transformative in a mindset state of mind, more than anything else. So for me, doing something incremental is no longer good enough. It has to be transformative, and it has to be multifold, if you like.
So when you say transformative, are you talking about the whole digital ecosystem? Are you talking about doing things in a different way?
When I say transformative, I mean I encourage our guys, my partners and my people to think big for our clients, to dream big for themselves, and to act big for our firm and to stay relevant. So that's the mindset piece which I'm referring to. Parallelly, we have to be agile. Parallelly, we have to adapt to new challenges which are thrown at us. And we've seen in the last 3 years the number of challenges, whether it's the ecosystem, whether it's geopolitical, or whether it pertains to talent, which is one of our key focus areas. Each one of those has changed dramatically, and it's how quickly we respond which matters.
And also the technology, like we were discussing earlier, the AI, ML. You're saying that even mundane things like internal audit, so-called mundane things, are also backed with data and a lot of AI, etc.
So everything that we do, every advice that we give, has elements of technology and digital to it. Gone are the days where you can be relevant and advise people, but not have an aspect of technology in it.
You see, India has always been a critical market for KPMG, but if you have to just look at the last 3-4 years, what is it that's made India even more important in the larger scheme of things for KPMG?
It's talent, it's technology, and it's ESG. So those are the 3 aspects which are important to us. When it comes to talent and when it comes to technology, and I'd say ESG as well, the India relevance immediately kicks in. And that's what's evolved. Within our network, India is far more relevant than it was in the earlier days.
Let's talk a little bit about the G part of the ESG acronym. There's a lot of examples we see in the corporate sector, in the listed company space in particular, over the last many months, of shareholders voting with their feet and actually throwing out resolutions which they did not like, and therefore companies having to get back to the drawing board and come back with fresh proposals. How do you see that playing out in the listed company space?
We've got some very, very professionally managed listed companies in India, and these adopt practices which are very relevant, very cutting edge. So they are very, very contemporary, if you like. And that's the reason why I wouldn't broad brush it. From a governance standpoint, it's embracing all aspects, which means you have to do something right, but you have to disclose at the same time.
That's right.
And some aspects we are not fully there as such.
So do you think companies are now, the larger companies, the companies you advise, do you think they're warming up to the fact that governance is an absolute must-have now?
It's on its way, even with the most professional top-end company, which has to rethink, re-evolve, reinvent to take things to the next level.
That's right.
It's not something that you just complete and you sit back. Even if you've accomplished what you have, which could be international standards, you have to continuously think of what developments there are and how can you take things to the next level.
Just to take Saurav's point ahead, a lot has been said about ESG, but you must tell us quite clearly in terms of where we are placed right now. And there's only one way to move from where we are on the ESG story. But what will it take to get there, in your opinion?
People have seen it, they've seen the relevance, the practicality, and the benefits around it. In a mature state, you will see not only corporates embracing all aspects of E, S, and G. Today, we may not be doing all aspects. You will see all aspects being embraced with full disclosure. Today, while there are things done, we may not be really disclosing it, so that's the second piece. But it'll really kick in when you come to the financing side related to ESG, where in a mature state, where you go to a lender and you need a basic element in place. That is the mature state that I'd look for.
So lenders are presumably looking at a company with a stronger ESG quotient a lot more favorably than what they might otherwise.
It started in Europe.
Okay.
So if you see some of the large lendings, it's already in place. You already have regulation of disclosure coming in. You already have assurance pieces coming in. So these are all connected. And with no singular focus on E, S, or G. It's across. And it's a matter of time before that comes to India. It's already there in India. But the good bit about India and Indians is we have the ability to catch up very quickly.
Another important thing is in the corporate sector, which is overseas, it's a big thing and happening pretty aggressively, is diversity and inclusion. But unfortunately, at least my experience doesn't show D&I as having been a big success in many of the listed companies. There might be some lip service, but not really real work out there. What's been your sense, and what do you think needs to be done?
So, first of all, D&I is a journey. It's not a switch on, switch off. You will never get it right if you view it as a switch on, switch off. It has to be a journey. Within that journey, there are also nuances of recognizing cultural aspects of the region.
True.
And if you recognize those pieces, and if you see this as a journey, then you are on the right track. And which is increasingly happening within the Indian corporates as well.
You think so?
It is. There is a pace. Of course, the pace can be much larger, but it is moving in that direction.
There's a sense of maturity one gets when you hear this bit on ESG or the issue, or let's say greater financial disclosure and all of it. But there are still certain gaps in Indian system, as Sourav also outlined, in terms of countries that are not necessarily listed, and therefore information is hard to come by. Would you necessarily agree with that, to say that some level of step up might therefore be required in entities that aren't necessarily listed in that case?
There is one view which says that I am not listed and I don't borrow.
Okay.
So, what do you want the information for?
Okay.
Do I need to be regulated as much as someone who is listed and who borrows? And internationally, we have a differentiation there. In India, we don't, but it's a matter of a debate whether you want to see it that way, where you've got someone who's totally privately held and does not borrow. Then do you want to regulate that entity separately as against someone who borrows money?
But that again would mean a set of rules may not cut across in the same manner across a set of unlisted entities, meaning the levels of disclosure as a consequence would be different depending on the industry and the necessity to make that kind of disclosure.
See, today there's a broad brush. There's no distinction. So if there is a regulation which comes out, say for audits or joint audits, it will impact similarly. If other than for tax reasons, you're not really answerable to anyone. You haven't borrowed money from anyone. It's your own money, it's your own business. Other regulations, yes, can apply. So in a mature state, we will have to start not broad brushing.
How much of your solutions and services are you focusing on in terms of the digital piece, and what are you doing internally to sort of get the right skill sets? How do you grapple with this challenge?
We have the advantage of of being in this business long enough. We have the advantage of recognizing the emerging trends and in a way looking around the corner, if you like. And we have the advantage of collaborating teams. So when we advise our clients, we have the ability of bringing different specialization together. So if something sits with an SME, if a solution sits there, we have the advantage of bringing our data people into it, our AI guys into it, our technology guys into it, and then you come with the right solution in the right circumstances. Yeah.
Now, as we move to, we've had India at 75, India at 100 is another theme which we are pretty bullish about. What exactly do you think are the key, 2 or 3 key opportunities in the economy or in the global economic sphere which India can really capitalize on and become an economic superpower?
Quite a few policies that you see currently, whether it's self-sustenance, whether it's a focus on manufacturing, whether it's, I don't know whether you've tracked that or not, but our entire focus on the semiconductor industry.
Yes, of course.
Those are things where we are going to get less dependent and self-sufficient, if you like. India as a region, as a geography, has the advantage of having the ability to self-consume. So you could do it somewhere else, but you will not find the same level and scale of consumers. So whatever we do, we already have a captive consumption available. Now that is our biggest advantage in whatever we do.
The domestic market.
Oh, absolutely.
And therefore, as KPMG, over the next 2-3 years, what are the key areas you think as the CEO you would focus on?
We are focusing on having the right solutions which are contemporary. And we are seeing that solutions change in a shorter time than they did in the past. And we are seeing the ability to collaborate and envelope yourself with different aspects, whether it's the advantage of channels or the main solution collaborating itself is the key going forward. But whatever we do, the aspects of digital, the aspects of technology will remain. We've also seen that there is a small dependency for SMEs outside of the firm. So we are very open to that as well. So if you see our alliances program, frankly, it's bringing together multiple skills with one objective.
So when you say alliances and when you say SMEs, what could you elaborate on this a bit?
So it's our alliances program is with some of the big tech companies.
Yes.
Where we don't want to do things that they are good at, and they don't want to do things that we are good at. And we come together.
Come together, yes.
For a different solution for our clients. That's the alliances program. When I talk about the SMEs and coming together, I'm talking about simple things like we have a solution where we can plug in a concept or an idea or a platform which is currently sitting with a startup. And consequently, we partner with that startup. So it's all of that.
Is that happening more and more because of the startup ecosystem growing the way it is?
It is. I see that happening. In fact, I push all our guys to always question oneself that is there a plugin which one is missing to make things more effective.
So Yezdi, aside of all the serious work which you do, talking to clients, talking to large corporates, how does a busy person like you sort of wind down? What do you do over the weekends? Is there a weekend, first of all?
No, there are weekends. They don't come every week, but there are weekends. For me, spending time with my family is important. It's one of the ingredients, if you like. So
To
If you ask
recharge
me
your
what is
batteries.
the first thing that I do, I spend time with my family, especially my son, and doing things with him helps me forget normal life.
What the next company's challenge is. That's great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
वीडियो पसंद आया तो हमें लाइक, कमेंट, शेयर और सब्सक्राइब जरूर करें।